Welcome back, Mando.
Oh, greetings, Bucketheads. Mevar Tagar. Welcome to our 282nd Hidden Tackle, Hidden Temple Tackling episode of Mandovision. I'm your host, Narguy Tom, and thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. We're so glad you're here. Reach out to us on the socials. We're at Mando_Vision, Twitter and Instagram. Email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share this show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. All right, Bucketheads, we're back. It's been a little while since I've recorded a podcast for y'all, but hopefully everything worked out A-okay while I was gone and the episodes dropped as scheduled. Probably got a little rust on me, as you may have heard from the beginning there, but I think we're going to work our way through it as we go. Very excited to be back. Very excited to talk about Star Wars once again with everybody. Buckethead Nation, we got a new trailer for Skeleton Crew. You know, we're to this point of the year where it's November now as I record this, November 4th as I record this here in the States. And I don't know what it is. To me, it feels like this part of the calendar, the rest of the year just flies by. We're on the other side of Halloween here in the States. We're heading towards Thanksgiving here in the States yet again. And then after that, it's on to like Christmas and Epiphany if you're in Europe, and Hanukkah and all the big end of the year holidays around the globe. And it's just a roller coaster ride to get there. You know, it's more like a rocket ship basically. I mean, we're screaming towards the end of the year. And if there's one thing we get to look forward to is that on December 3rd, we will get the 2-episode premiere of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. They dropped the new trailer. And let me tell you, friends, I had some thoughts. And those thoughts are, I am so freaking pumped for this show. I'm very, very excited for this show. Like, wait a second, what? You're telling me that this guy who grew up in the 80s is going to get a kids on bike style, Goonies style Star Wars adventure to watch on the Disney Plus? Sign me up, friends. Not that you had to, but I'm in. I'm in for a penny, in for a pound, and I can't wait. Because guess what? Goonies, one of my favorite movies. and this is like a little slice of that, right? Except it's in Star Wars, which is even better. So I really liked the new trailer. I thought it did a good job of kind of giving us, establishing that the tone of this show will be very, very different from what we've seen before from other Star Wars shows. And I think that's an important thing to acknowledge because, again, it hasn't been that long since The Acolyte came to what many might consider to be a premature end. And that was the first Star Wars show that had sort of like the nerve, the audacity to tell a story set apart from the Skywalker saga timeline, right? It went back into the past for its story. And, you know, for better or worse, and again, the timeline may not have been the main issue of the story, but that show did not connect with the audience the way that I think Disney and Lucasfilm were hoping it to. Again, I sort of disagree with that assessment, but that seems to be the case regardless. Now we get a new show, and I think they're making it very, very clear from the jump. This is Star Wars, but it is very different Star Wars. As we've said before on this very podcast, I believe that Star Wars is like Baskin-Robbins. There should be 31 flavors of Star Wars deliciousness for all of us to find and enjoy and like. Star Wars does not have to be one way. It does not have to be one thing. It doesn't have to be space wizards and extraneous intergalactic combat with super weapons abound. No. You can give me a story of kids on an adventure against space pirates, and I'm going to lap it up. I'm fired up. I'm excited. And it looks like the show sort of teased some other mysterious elements going on as well. You know, it looks like once the kids are rocketed away from their 80s style Star Wars suburbia, their parents begin to uncover some sort of conspiracy on their own home planet, which I suspect will tie into that ship in the first place. So it looks like it's going to be one of these kind of like just fun, adventure-y, Star Wars-y things, and I am here for it. Get me more of that. So yeah, I'm not going to try and analyze that trailer too deeply. I don't want to play the speculation game. I don't want to. I want to sit there on December 3rd, watch those 2 episodes, and let the story kind of unfold. And let's see what happens. Let's see what adventure we go on with these characters. We got teased with the idea of space pirates in season 3 of The Mandalorian. So let's follow that up. Let's see more of that. Let's go down that road as we spend more time in this New Republic era before the sequel trilogy will take place. Let's also remember that, if you had a keen eye, you might have caught a few things in that trailer. Could this story be teasing some connections to old, forgotten Star Wars lore? There might be a few elements in that trailer that sort of maybe indicate that, hey, remember that old Han Solo adventure back in the day written by Brian Daley? Maybe this ties to that a little bit. Possibly. That's as much speculation as I'm going to give you. That's as much speculation as I want to have. But I just know it's like, ooh, wait, what? Maybe? Who knows? But yes, I'm fired up for it. I'm ready to go. Give me more of that Star Wars variety, right? Give me those 31 flavors of delicious, delicious Star Warsness. And let's have a good time with this show. I cannot wait. I'm very excited. December 3rd is going to be here right before we know it. And we're going to talk about the episodes on the podcast. I have a couple of feelers out there. Hopefully we'll get to have a dialogue with one of our good friends here on the show, Bucketheads. I think that'd be great. But as always, the main obstacle to getting people on this podcast more frequently is always my schedule. And that is a work thing, and I do my best, but it's challenging. I am the obstacle. I am the problem. It's me, as Tay might say. All right, friends. So yes, fired up for that trailer. Gonna watch it some more. Hope you guys are equally excited. I know some people kind of reacted strongly when they had that tease version of Major Tom in there, but I was here for it. I was like, give me more of that. I'm excited. I'm fired up. And again, they're putting out there right now, this is the tone of the show. Maybe it's not going to be for you, but you should give it a try anyways. And then we'll discuss it here on the podcast. Because again, civil, respectful discourse, dialogue is what we want on the show. We're not here to just like blindly agree with whatever they're doing on Star Wars. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's have a chat. And again, let's remember to be respectful and supportive of each other. Because that is the culture that we want to have here on Mandivision. All right, Bucketheads, let's get to the real reason why we're here for this podcast today. We are continuing our Star Wars Rebels rewatch, and it has been quite illuminating as I go back to this show that I really haven't watched since the first run. So yeah, I'm going back to the episodes from 2014, and I haven't watched them since. And I'm enjoying the heck out of it. This one in particular has some very, very good qualities to it. So let's get the particulars for it out of the way. This is Star Wars Rebels, Season 1, Episode 10, Path of the Jedi. Original air date, December 29th, 2014. Written by Charles Murray. Directed by the one, the only, Dave Filoni. Our primary cast for this week, Taylor Gray is Ezra Bridger. Vanessa Marshall as Hera Syndulla. Freddie Prinze Jr. as Kanan Jarrus. Tia Sakar as Sabine Wren. Steve Blum as Zeb Orielos. Dave Filoni as Chopper, Jason Isaacs as the Inquisitor, and returning, the voice of the character that we all love, Frank frickin' Oz returns to voice Yoda. How about that, my friends? That is good stuff. So, yes, Frank Oz returns to be Yoda. Our plot for this week's episode, Ezra must face a great challenge as part of his growth as a member of the team. I'd also add as a potential Padawan for Kanan. So yeah, big episode, lots going on, very Jedi-y, very Forcey, if you will. Forcey? Okay. A lot of force going on in this episode. All right, Bucketheads, you know what that means. Let's get into it. You ready? It's time. strap on your buckets, and let's go.
Get out of here. We'll hold them off.
You're going to have to relocate the covert.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Our episode opens back on Lothal, a quiet time for the crew of the Ghost, and Kanan looking for his apprentice to begin some training, but he's nowhere to be found. Where is he? We find out later. He's been off with Sabine. Doing what? We're not told in this episode, but it will come out that they're hanging out with that TIE fighter that Zeb and Ezra did not destroy, as they told Kanan and Hera. But that's okay. We'll get into that later. No, this is actually a big moment for Ezra because of what occurred in the last episode. Ezra may not think it was a big deal, but Kanan's very concerned about what occurred when they were at Fort Anaxis. And that was Ezra, getting in touch with the Force, channeling the Force very well for the first time, but then touching on something very, very dark. Letting his fear, letting his anger, letting his emotions get the best of him to summon something from the depths of Fort Anaxis in a very dark way. And I think that scared Kanan quite a bit. So what Kanan has devised now is something of a test to determine if this is the path that Ezra should stay on, or if they need to stop now, because Kanan has no interest in training a future Inquisitor or worst case scenario, another future Sith Lord. Someone that the Emperor and Vader can make their pawn, make their toy. So what Kanan has in mind, having used his holocron, using his star charts, he has located a nearby Jedi temple, but he wants Ezra to try and use the Force to find said temple as well. Now, of course, as Kanan knows ahead of time where they're going. He's already sort of applied the course, but he's glad to find that Ezra is able to use the Force to figure out that there is indeed, in fact, already on Lothal, an ancient Jedi temple. So they go to said temple, and it's not the sort of Jedi temple like we saw on Coruscant. It is more ancient. It is more natural. It is in fact in like this. I don't know. Mountain may not be the right word, but this imposing natural stone structure, right, has been modified into a Jedi temple on its interior, but its exterior looks very natural, very with the planet. And Kanan has to urge Ezra to listen to the stone so they can find the way in, because it's not obvious, right? You walk all around it, no visible entryways whatsoever. Kanan urges Ezra to listen to the stone, and the stone says it wants to admit them, but it wants to admit them both, Master and Padawan. So they both combine, use the Force together, and find the entryway as the stone spins out of the surface of Lothal, and an entrance is found. Now, once we get inside said temple, we get to go. Ezra's going to go on a journey that we've seen echoes of in other Star Wars media, most specifically Luke in the cave on Dagobah, but specifically, perhaps more directly, when we follow Ahsoka and Yoda when they take the Padawans to Ilum to receive their Kyber crystals, because they have to confront their fears, they have to confront their past, they have to confront their truths. And that's what Ezra will be doing here. And he doesn't realize it at first. It takes a little while for Ezra to realize that this is the test, that facing these things, confronting his demons, facing his fear, facing the fear of dying, these things are important. That these things are what need to happen for him to get that greater understanding of what it is to be a Jedi. He's stumbling along the way on his path to self-sacrifice and to being a less selfish person. And that's what he's confronted with, right? That these people that he's with Kanan and Hera and Zeb and Sabine and Chopper, they are self-sacrificing. They are giving of themselves for the betterment of others. And Ezra wants to be part of that. He wants to feel that, to feel alive in that way that he sees from these people that he now has sort of adopted as his family. And there are moments where he wrestles with the whole concept of revenge and getting payback and making the Empire suffer. And it's through the words of wisdom that both Kanan and Ezra will get from Yoda that their paths become more clear. Kanan chomping at the bit, trying to wait, trying to be patient. And the voice of Yoda guides him and soothes him and calms him down and sort of restores his faith in believing in others and believing in himself and in his ability to guide this young person with Force talent. I found it to be a really insightful episode into each of these characters' psychological makeup. Kanan with that self-doubt of if he is a good teacher for Ezra, considering how far off the path he went while trying to hide from the Empire for so many years. And then Ezra, a person who is a survivor, who had to look out for himself and only himself for so long, learning how to be the person who can give of himself, can sacrifice himself for other people. And them making these moments, making these realizations will help them have a better dynamic with one another, but it also puts Ezra on the first real path to becoming a Jedi, and he is rewarded as such with his own kyber crystal, which leads to the forging of his own lightsaber. A very unique lightsaber, which we will spend more time talking about down the road, because we find out that lightsaber has a lot more functionality. Yes, it might look like a staple gun, but in fact, it has some other things going on to it. And we'll talk about more about that down the road. But a really nice episode for these two characters, as again, we sort of peel back the layers on Ezra, on why Ezra's doing this. It seems like at first he maybe just wants to make Kanan happy, so he's going to do this. But there's more to it than that. And they pull those layers back, and we get into it. And then going into Kanan, and again, we don't know his past 100% on this show, but we start to pull those layers back and why he's concerned about everything going on and why he may not be the ideal master. It's sort of like that it made me think of Batman a little bit. I'm not going to lie. The line from The Dark Knight, Kanan may not be the master that he wants to be, but he's the master that Ezra needs him to be. So I sort of played it off on that a little bit, and good times in my regard. So the presence of Yoda in this episode looms large. I love him as sort of like that Force essence beings that we got to see so much of in the final season when Yoda went on his Force journey. So to see him as like those luminous beings, but with his voice, I thought was very, very cool, very, very awesome. I love the way he was still himself, is able to connect with Kanan, a character he had come into contact with, obviously through the Jedi Temple back in the Clone Wars, and with Ezra as well. I thought it was a really nice touch to include Yoda in this episode, and something for the fans, but also for these characters, because because Yoda's so essential to what we believe for the Jedi Knights and the Jedi Order in general, overall. So a really, really nice touch. I love the bits with the Inquisitor, obviously a Force illusion, but just calling Ezra on all of his stuff and putting the fear of everything into him and making him be honest with himself. So I love the way the Force visions worked out to get Ezra to confront his inner demons, his inner turmoil, his inner struggle, and come to terms with it and accept it. And it's great. It's super good stuff. This is a rock solid season 1 episode of Star Wars Rebels. I give it 9 buckets, my friend, because again, we're pulling the layers back on these two characters, and we're taking those first important steps on Ezra's journey. And he gets to forge his own lightsaber after he gets his own kyber crystal. Not something that Kanan was expecting to happen at this temple, but that's the journey that Ezra went on. Very, very cool stuff. Again, 9 buckets. Cannot wait to see what's next. We got a handful of episodes left. 5 left in this season, and then we get to some real good stuff. Just wait. This season is a lot of teasing and foreshadowing, but this episode itself is just rock solid, setting the tone. And I think with that, my friends, we're going to get the heck out of here, because I don't have much more to say about this episode because it is so solid, so great. I guess the one thing I didn't touch on enough was maybe Ezra during those visions when he goes onto the ghost and he's hearing his friends talking so badly about him, and again, him having to confront the idea that he's not appreciated for who he is and but only for what he can bring to the table. And again, I love the way the Force visions were incorporated in this. It's all good, and I just, again, a rock solid episode. Love the journey that Ezra goes on in it, and Kanan as well. Very, very, very good stuff. All right. This is the Mandovision podcast. I am so glad you're here. You're an amazing part of Buckethead Nation, whoever you might be out there in the world. And you support this podcast. It makes you amazing. Reach out to us. We're on the socials. We're at Mando_Vision, Twitter and Instagram. Email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, following, and sharing the show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. If possible or so inclined, sweet 5-star reviews. They help us out tremendously. Thank you in advance for doing so. Bucketheads, we're going to be back next week. Again, we're going to rock it through this season to be caught up, have season 1 finished just in time to talk about Skeleton Crew that first week of December. And it's going to be fun. Lando Calrissian next week, friends. Get ready. All right? I'm excited for that one. It's going to be a good time. And again, go back out there, watch that Skeleton Crew trailer. Again, there's a couple little teases, maybe some connections to the old Brian Daley Star Wars Han Solo books. Maybe. We'll see. That's just blind, idle speculation at this point. But we'll talk about it if it happens. In the meantime, you guys take care of yourselves. Be good Star Wars fans. Go out there, engage with the Star Wars community. Be kind, supportive, respectful, because that's what Buckethead Nation is all about. And we'll see you, see, that's a strong word. We'll be back next week to discuss the next episode of Star Wars Rebels featuring Lando Calrissian. In the meantime, remember, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
I suppose you'll be heading out.
I'm not.
You should.
It's against the creed. I gave you my word. I'm with you until we both fall.
You really buy into that bantha fodder?
I do.
Good.